Do you find yourself constantly needing permission to do things in life when, even though as an adult, you probably don't need to? Today's episode is all about needing permission and, most importantly, learning how to give yourself permission. How are you doing today, Kat?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good. I like this topic. I think it's something that hits really, I'd say close to home, but it's right inside home. It's deep in there. And
Mm-hmm.
where do you think this comes from initially? That need for permission.
Oh, gosh. Well, I think it's obvious that all of us are kind of like raised, and no matter who raised you, right? We have to ask for permission from the time we're really little children to do just about anything. And then as we get older, right, we get more autonomy, but all of those built in things are still there. And I find for me personally that I find that I have a hard time giving myself permission, like financially, like to buy stuff for myself. That is like the category that I have the most trouble with.
Okay. Yeah, I relate to that one too. I was just kind of thinking, like, where's the crossover with this? Because at some point, we don't need permission, right? You don't need permission to make yourself food in the morning so that you keep living. But to go buy yourself something of value that's like for yourself, like just purely for yourself, that just takes that little bit of permission. So do you think that maybe we need permission for certain things because of conditioning that maybe happened earlier on in life? Because I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, I think it's like you go to school, if you don't ask for permission to go to the bathroom and you get up and go, you are told to sit back down by the French Catholic nuns. Maybe that was a little too personal. But yeah, like there are things that if you learn very young that you better get permission to do things. But at the same time, there's other things we don't. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's as adults, it's tied to our cultural values, right? It's tied to wanting acceptance and wanting people to be like happy with you, right? Like there's a discomfort with feeling like people are disappointed in you. I think that there's societal expectations like let's say like an adult woman feeling like she needs her parents okay to travel alone or something like that, like when she could
Yeah.
just book a plane ticket and go. But there's this like need for acceptance, and for a lot of things it's also tied to self-worth, right? Like I deserve this thing. I just get to have the things that I want to have, right? Provided you can afford them and all the, 3D world stuff. But um, even permission to rest. That's another thing I dealt with, is just feeling like I needed everyone else in the house is okay if I would take like a 30-minute nap, rather than just being like, I'm an adult and I pay for this place that we call home. And if I want to take a 30-minute nap, I can do that. But just feeling like it's okay with everyone else that I just like take a minute to myself. And so, of course, I've gotten better with this over time, but it's still the first instinct to feel like you need to ask other people if it's okay to do anything.
Yeah. So essentially what I'm getting from this, and it's always fun to go into our own brains with these things, but it's that need for approval, which is also kind of a worthiness issue when we really strip it all down. It's like, this is, I need to feel worthy to give myself the things that I would happily give somebody else. I'm way
Oh,
more likely
yeah,
to go buy somebody else the thing that I want for myself than I am to buy it for myself. Which,
true.
I mean, and that can be just a giving sense, or a people pleasing sense too. There's a bunch of layers there. But when we really get to the heart of it, I think it's a worthiness issue for so many of us, and coupled with that, being accepted by the tribe
Yes.
mentality,
By the checklist police.
by the checklist police, which I've
And what I
never
mean by
actually seen, but
that,
Yeah.
What I mean
But,
by that, if maybe this is your first episode, is like Andrew and I often talk about like the life checklist, which is this sort of made up checklist that society gives us that says, you know, you got to grow up and go to college, buy your house, have 2.5 kids, keep your grass mowed, etc. in order to be happy, take your trip a year, whatever. And we call it like the checklist. Like it is society's way of like having everybody conform. And if you're a little bit different or you do things a little out of order or something happens that doesn't match, you know, this nice cookie cutter prescription for life, then you can feel this sense of otherness. And so we are constantly encouraging people to like check in with themselves and make sure that they're not blindly following the checklist and make sure that they're actually doing things that they want to do.
yeah. And I'd say with that too, that also directly ties into the coaching and all about creating a life of purpose, because we are really living our life by accident. And when you start following that life checklist, which we should really get into, I think when you start to break away from that, you feel that need for permission. You feel that like, is it okay that I'm doing this? I remember when I was paying off my mortgage really fast, and I paid it off in 6 years. I was trying to get validation from anyone, and I couldn't get
Yeah.
it. Nobody
Yeah.
understood what I was doing or why, and while it made emotional sense to me, I really needed some sort of validation, and I couldn't find it anywhere, but I still did
Yeah.
it. And
Sure.
I think when you start to do these things that are outside the norm, you kind of want to have that permission to go like, it's okay that I'm doing this, right? Like this isn't too weird. But what we're finding from all the work that we do is that the weird is the good stuff.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing every day. It's not the repetitive social behavior that so many of us follow blindly, and what we call living life on accident, or by accident. It really is a matter of kind of exploring your own ability to give you permission to do the things that feel right to you. And I think that's really, really hard because only you know what feels right to you.
Yeah. Well, I think that we are, again, we are living life with all of these different cultural norms that are sort of thrust upon us. And I have found, and I don't know whether you agree or not, but in our coaching practice, when we help people, the groups of people that have the most trouble with needing permission to do things are women, and specifically mothers. Because society tells us that if you're a mother and you do something that's for yourself, and that's, you know, taking time away from your kids and things like that. And so we've worked with women, one in particular recently, who has literally been emailing me for probably 3 years wanting to start a consulting business. And it just like never happened or whatever. And, you know, she has little kids and things like that. And finally, I just said, look, I've looked back at all of our messages. For 3 years, you've been emailing me about this. I give you permission, if that's what you need, to go out and file your LLC and let's get this party started. And all the time that we've spent talking about this, you could have had it by now. And we'll figure out the rest later. We'll figure out how much time you need, how many hours, and we'll figure it out. But I find that it's very hard for women to choose to do something for themselves, whether it's, you know, going on a 3-day yoga retreat on a long weekend, or starting a business, or, you know, trying out a hobby that's theirs. You know, maybe they feel like, oh, if I want to try this new insert whatever hobby here, or I want to get this certification, it's going to take away from the family. And I don't know what that is, but I find us saying quite a bit to the people that we help. Look, if you need permission, we can give it to you. Like, we'll write it out. You have permission, and we kind of tease about it. But the truth is, we all really need to learn how to give that permission to ourselves.
Right. Absolutely. And yeah, when you come to that place where you recognize you need permission, it's really kind of giving yourself that identity of almost like a parental figure of yourself. where it's doing that. And I want to get into how we start to do that. But before I want to give a few more examples for myself about
Sure.
how needing permission, because the big
I give you
things like, yeah,
permission to
starting a
talk.
biz. I appreciate that. I gave myself permission too, but I appreciate the validation of the permission. Uh,
In case you needed it.
case I needed. So here's a few other ways that you might not be giving yourself permission. Maybe you go and you buy yourself snacks because you have company coming over one night or a friend staying with you, but you can't eat them unless they're there because you're not worthy enough to have them. That's where a worthiness thing can come out. Maybe you just need to kind of have that authoritarian figure in your life that does that. And what we teach with 5-Year You is that your boss is you 5 years from now that you're answering to. And we see you as that separate entity just so that you don't, because we don't want you justifying, not doing things because, well, it's me, I can justify it. Seeing yourself as like this external force that goes, look, 5 years from now, we are healthy. We are, happy. We are running our own business. I give you permission to start working on those things. And sometimes just by going forward into the future a little bit in your mind and going, okay, this is it. This is how we give ourselves permission can be a really, really useful tool to do that. When it comes to giving ourselves permission, I think one of I'm going to hammer on the worthiness thing because the worthiness and self-love thing are the two biggest things that I think kind of come up. And those are things that we can help you with, but you have to identify the issue with them before you can start to heal them. So if you found yourself going, I really, really wanted to go to this concert, but I needed somebody to say it was okay to go, or I really wanted to go to this place, or, just even watch this Netflix show that but I didn't want to quote unquote waste my time. Start small with giving yourself permission, and I think that can, we're not looking for a switch, like an on and off switch, though sometimes that happens. It's really more like we've said before, it's a dimmer switch. And that dimmer switch is representative of the journey that you're taking right now to become the best version of yourself. And, if you move the dimmer switch too fast, it might get too bright and you're going to go right back down to zero. So maybe you give yourself permission to do something small today and see how that feels. And you start strengthening that muscle. What would you say to people that are feeling the need to give themselves permission and they just don't know where to start, Kat? What would you say?
Yeah, I think starting small is the best with just about anything that you're working towards. And we always say awareness is really the first step, is just sort of noticing, notice yourself talking yourself out of the things that you want to do. Notice yourself saying, no, I shouldn't do that. Like, oh, the kids have this, or they might need help with their homework or whatever. And the truth is that you have to send a signal to your own brain that you are valuable and worthy of all of the dreams and desires that you have inside of your head. If something floats up into your mind as something that you want to do, that is your heart talking to you and saying, this is meant for me. This is something I wanted to do. I have ideas and things in my head and things I've been wanting to do for a while. Like these are things that are on my heart that I'm maybe waiting for more of an investment, or maybe waiting for like a higher income and things like that. But we can all start small by just acknowledging those things that bubble up, the things that we can't quite stop thinking about. The people that we work with, that is often business ideas that they've had, or like trips that they've wanted to take, or things like that. Something that they've wanted to do for them is usually what it is. That they see the version of themselves 5 years from now as maybe a very fit person, a very a very calm person because they've started a meditation practice, something like that. So I think that we always say awareness is the first thing, but I would add awareness plus journaling, and you'll sort of notice the things that bubble up more and more, and just allowing yourself to sit with those thoughts for a little bit longer and acknowledging that those ideas are meant for you, and it's okay for you to take the first step towards going for them.
I love that. I'd like to add to, because I could hear my prick voice coming up in my head, and we're going to do an episode on that soon because it's needed. But the voice that would come up in my head as those things happened was, well, everybody has that thought. Everybody has the idea of putting ice cream on a hamburger and deep frying it. And nobody said that. I don't know where that came from, but I'm hungry now.
It came from your heart, apparently, based on what I just said.
Fair enough. So I think the point that I'm trying to make is that those things that you have in your head, they actually are unique to you. And that is part of your uniqueness. And you need to embrace that. And part of your need to conform, that need for permission, is going to want to keep you in place. So being able to hear that and go, no, I don't think that I need to just toe the line. I think that maybe I can lean into my, deep fried hamburger ice cream stand idea but maybe not. You got to explore the idea.
I support you with whatever.
please don't on this one.
You do you.
Folks, I never come up with ideas beforehand. They always just fly out. And one of these days, we're going to be floored when they're good. So giving yourself permission today, start small. So whether that's permission to go lie down when you're tired, to eat maybe when it's not a meal time, to not eat when it's a meal time. There's no, like we've said before, and we've done a whole episode on this, the rules are fake. And that permission that you're needing is part of your soul crying out to you right now, going, we should do this. And your conditioning, your ego, whatever you want to label it, is coming back and going, well, we can't do that. Somebody has to tell us. I would say most of the best things in life that happen to you are when you go and you follow your heart and your passion and your purpose, and you give yourself permission to do that, because you feel so liberated in that moment. And you start to see how life can actually be when you stop living by everybody else's need for conformity.
I love that. I really do. And I feel like, again, this is something that is very common. Do you notice as a man this coming up a lot? Or because I said, I don't know if you agree or not, but I feel like this seems predominantly more of like a female thing. Majority.
I think you and I can both agree that I do not conform to the typical man. I don't even know. I was going to say lingo, stereotype? And I'm like, that is it. Thank you very much. But I will definitely say that there are a lot more guys out there that they just kind of do, right? And I don't know if that's a genetic thing or a condition thing or whatnot. Myself personally, I've always found that I've needed permission, and I start to see it more and more in both genders as people are growing up, right? Depends on everybody's different, somebody might need permission. You could have several siblings in a household, different genders and everything, and it'll be mixed up because of their own personal experience. So I do think, as society has gone, as a mother, there are things that are expected, or that's not the right word. There's like these stereotypes. Good word, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Not lingo, apparently. But I think that when it comes to these stereotypes, they're just that. They're not valid, and they don't necessarily represent you. It's just, that's just the belief that somebody took out of the freezer like a frozen TV dinner and put on the counter and said, this is what it is. And you can look at that and go, yeah, but I don't want that. So I'm going to pick something else.
Yeah.
And
Well, what about you personally?
Personally, I would say, there's a great movie called The Shawshank Redemption. And at the end of it, Morgan Freeman is, he gets released after 50, 60 years in prison. And he is like bagging groceries at a grocery store. And he goes and asks his boss, if he can have a 2-minute break. And the boss says, you don't have to ask me every time you need to go to the washroom. And I would say I'm just like fractionally better than that, would be kind of where I'm at.
True.
Meaning like it's hard. I mean, I grew up my whole life. I don't know if I've shared this on this podcast, but I've shared on a lot of other ones. I grew up needing to feel safe. So I was a people pleaser, and people pleasing literally means that you sacrifice yourself for everybody else. So when I go and buy something, I mean, I live on my own now, and when I go buy something, like if you're coming by, I'll go buy whatever it is that you like, but I won't eat it until you get here. And it's not, I don't know where that comes from, but I definitely find myself needing permission to do a lot of things. And I am actively working on that. I have given myself permission to listen to the voice in my head and to acknowledge that it's not me. So that person that kind of goes, oh, we have to wait for the light to change. Well, that's a safety one. Maybe we should leave. Let's leave personal safety out.
Maybe wait for the light to change.
Please follow all stop signs. But when it comes to like, giving myself a treat or something like that, now I'm, rather than feeling that voice is the thing that's right, I start to acknowledge that this voice is just a voice. And much like a feeling, it's not a fact. And I get to play with that. So I can kind of look at that. And I've very recently started to look at it and go, this voice doesn't make me happy. It has served a purpose, but its job is done. But it still pops up, and I will say, like, look at me thinking that I can't have a bag of chips unless there's somebody else in the room, because Lord knows I couldn't just go buy a second bag of chips for when that person comes.
Well, that's the worthiness thing, right? And I think grocery shopping is a super great example. Like how many parents go and make sure their kids have every single thing that they want, but maybe or they even get their other half's favorite thing, but they don't get their own favorite things. At least I know that I do that. And it's more of like a frugality thing of that's more me. It's like, I can go without. I want to make sure the kids don't, but that's like a really small way you can, again, send a signal to your own brain that, you're worthy of your favorite kind of cookies. And then once you believe that you're worthy of like your own treats, or you're worthy of, like I just took my daughter to get our nails done, right? Because like I wanted to. We hadn't done it in a while, and we both really needed it. And but that's like a special treat for us. That's not something that I take her to do every 2 weeks, or myself for that matter. But then that way, when you build yourself up and the big dreams start bubbling up, like I've always wanted to start a podcast, or I've always wanted to start a side business, or I've always wanted to purchase the ice cream cart to make the ice cream hamburgers that are deep fried, whatever it is. Well, then you have a history of signaling to your own brain that you matter, your choices matter, your dreams matter, and you kind of like work on that worthiness button inside of you and build it up.
I like that. I will say you and I have both been really working on finding the things to avoid inflammation in our eating. We really have focused on this year as far as like an eating thing. And one of the things that was really, really hard for me to do was to allow myself to stop buying more affordable, lesser quality foods.
That's right.
And to start buying things that actually were healthier for me and serve me. So, like I went and, I bought organic chicken, which I never would have done before, and it was really, really hard to do. And, am I a hero? No, but I did, sorry. But I did actually, it did matter to me to say like, look, you're worthy enough of treating your body with the foods that make sense, not continuously poisoning it with other things. And this isn't about like good foods or bad foods. There are just some foods that like when I have they really are hard on me mentally the next day or two, and I've just become aware of that. So I
Yeah. If
actively
you can
avoid
eat
them.
whatever, then more power to you. But unfortunately, for both of us, we have had to really change the way that we eat for health reasons. And it has been hard for both of us because I would describe both of us as money conscious people. I mean, we met at a personal finance conference.
Good.
It's really hard to give ourselves permission and say, look, like for me, I have autoimmune diseases and eating really well helps to reduce my inflammation. But I have to tell myself, like, you're worth feeling good. Yeah, this organic chicken costs $5 more than this one. But at the same time, we're no longer buying a lot of snacks. We're no longer buying alcohol, all of these different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's challenging to do, but I think if our listeners take anything from this video, or this podcast episode, it's that start noticing the times where you feel like someone needs to give you permission to do something. Start noticing the times where you want to do something or you want to have something and you immediately turn yourself down because it might inconvenience someone else or it might not be what someone else wants. And start to treat yourself like you're your own best friend, like you're your most cherished person, right? And you'll start to notice a little bit of a difference in how you view yourself.
I love that. I think it's just all about awareness, like we said, and to know that you're not alone on this one. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
sometimes, it's just there's this lack of shared consciousness when it comes to our own personal experience. And when anything is negative, we don't want to share it because we're so afraid that someone else is going to ridicule it. But the truth is, the more we share our shortcomings, our challenges, the more we realize that we're all going through these things in our own way. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really powerful to be able to come to somebody with that and go, look, I need this. And even if it's going to your kid and say, can you give dad approval to make a chocolate hamburger, or ice cream hamburger? If that's all you need for permission, ask for it. If that's really it, but know that you don't need it. But the start of needing this permission is to ask for it and knowing that the only person you need permission from is yourself.
That's right. All right, I think that's a good place to stop. And at the end of each episode, we do something called the glimmers. And these are happy, fun, sparkly things that bring us joy. And we just like to share them with you. So, Andrew, what is your glimmer for today?
You know what? I, in line with giving myself permission and eating healthier foods and stuff like that, I discovered Siete chips, which apparently were just bought up by Pepsi. So, but they aren't, there's something I can eat. They're cassava flour, the ones that I have, and they're so good. And they have a churro one, which is just, it's like a chip dessert, which, probably is way better than an ice cream hamburger. So that's my glimmer. How about you, Kat? What's
It's
yours?
just gonna keep on going, like
The episode's
like
almost
the
done, folks, and
almond
so
on
is
the
this joke.
tart. That's a throwback to a previous episode. Lord. Honestly, I just mentioned my glimmer earlier in the episode. I should have saved it to the end, but I was really excited to surprise my daughter with a mani-pedi. She had been asking me to do her nails and we kind of kept running out of time because Lord, is the week busy with kids and school and their activities and stuff. And so I picked her up from school last Friday and I said, guess what? I booked us an appointment and she was really excited. Had some really nice quality time with her and, just let her pick what she wanted and, held her hand while we were getting our pedis and stuff. And I know this won't last forever because she's 10 and she wanted to hold my hand. And so I just really, really cherish those quality time moments. Again, if you're new here, I have 10-year-old twins. And so having one-on-one time with them is pretty rare. They're pretty much kind of two peas in a pod most of the time. And so that is my glimmer for today.
I love that. It's a good one. And thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Hey, one last thing. Don't forget to go to 5yearyou.com/future to start getting those emails from your future self. It will change your life.
Hey guys, quick disclaimer. We're podcasters on the internet. If you need to seek professional help, please go see your healthcare professional.